to Fireside Chat for September. And we're pleased to have Mike Macharia, who is the CEO of 7Cs. A few housekeeping rules. Please put your mobile phones on silent. And the hashtag, if you're tweeting about this session, is #FireChat. All right. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'll do a very short intro about Mike, and we'll do 30 minutes of Mike telling us about how he entered the entrepreneurial world, his journeys, his challenges, the role models, what he's achieved now, and then we'll open it up for 30 minutes of Q&A. I'd like to welcome Mike to the iHub. Mike is an accomplished CEO and entrepreneur in the technology world. As you all know, he runs 7Cs Technology, which has business prospects in various countries in Africa. And with that, Mike will take over and tell us his entrepreneurial journey.
Okay, thanks, Jessica. So, how did we start, and how did I start the journey as an entrepreneur? First, I always say that there was no business plan for me to start a business. So, the way everybody says that you need a business plan, in my case, there was no business plan to become an entrepreneur. I started my journey as an entrepreneur 11 years ago when I was 25, 26. And it was more of bumping into an opportunity and starting a business as opposed to having a structured business plan where then you have a whole roadmap and you have cash flow, the business plan. For me, I started the business, the business was me, and the business was debit and credit. The net impact is my profit, which I put in my pocket. That's how I started the business. The first few months. So how did it start? I'll give you some sort of pointers in terms of transformational points as an entrepreneur that have transformed the way I do things today. And I think to some extent luck, some extent being nosy, and sometimes walking with your eyes open. You know, sometimes you look at opportunities. All of you have seen opportunities, but how many of you then do something, see beyond what you see? So I'm seated one day having dinner. I did finance. First I went to, before that, just let me recall. I was called in to do maths, physics, chemistry in the University of Egerton, and I really hated it, to be very honest. I thought it was probably the worst thing ever, and I thought I was a smart guy. What am I doing here doing maths, physics, chemistry? I could not see the connection. I could not join the dots from what I was doing to the future. I couldn't really place it. I was not sure what was I doing there. And after 1.5 semesters, I decided to quit. And I quit with the full intention that this was not for me. And I thought, let me do finance. Finance was a little bit more structured. Then, if you imagine 1995, those days, I just finished my O-levels. And this was like a shocking revelation to my family and everybody around me. And they thought, this guy is crazy. What is he planning to do? Anyway, I did finance. And in the middle of doing finance, I qualified as a chartered accountant. And as I went around working for tech companies, so I worked for a big tech company then. It was one of the biggest tech companies then, I thought. And they represented the likes of Compaq. You remember those days of Compaq? Compaq was a big brand, which now I think has died, right? And in this job, as a finance person, I began realizing challenges that IT companies face. One was, as a finance person, I realized that in terms of collection of our account receivables, we could never collect our account receivables because half the time the customers had problems. So you go and see customers and they tell you, we can't pay you because, one, you've not completed this project, you've not done this. So you have to go, you need to extend yourself and understand, go back to your back office in terms of technical and try to understand why is it you've not completed X, Y, Z. Then the engineers would say the customer did not do this, we did not do this happened, we never delivered this, the customer changed the deadlines. So eventually you start putting the dots and realize that it doesn't matter what you do, if you're not able to close the loop, right, end to end. You can have a big project, or you can have project with customers, but if you're not able to complete the loop, it doesn't really matter. So I learned a lot about technology, having to interact with engineers, because every time you're not getting paid, you then need to ask engineers what's going on, and you need to go into detail. You need to find out, we never signed off here, we never did this, there was meant to be this project. And that's how I got in touch with the technology side of the business. And I got to understand the link between technology, projects, and cash flow in the company. So as I'm working for this company 2-3 years later, I'm sitting in a restaurant, I think now it's becoming boring, I need to do something else. And I think let me go to the US and probably become an investment banker. I want to become an investment banker, so probably I would have been the people who helped the markets crash, I guess, or probably I would have been doing something. But anyway, eventually never got there. But in the middle of studying myself to go there, I'm in a restaurant over dinner and I meet this guy. This guy, he's then the CFO of one of the national airline for Rwanda. Not Rwanda, not a national airline. That was 2000 years. And he tells me he's been tasked with building a national airline and he owns technology. So I'm talking to him and we're interacting and we get to know each other. We're good friends. We become good friends over dinner. You know how in Kenya everybody becomes a good friend over a drink, right? And then he tells me, look, why don't you come to Rwanda and see what we have, then tell us if you can give us a solution. I said, no, I don't have a solution to give you. I'm going to do my studies in the US.
Sorry, this happens a lot. Okay. So we'll just, it comes back on.
Don't worry, okay.
Yeah, and...
Is it back on? Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
So don't worry. And I just come from Lagos, this is normal, okay? I'm not too worried, okay? So he tells me, why don't you come to Nigeria? Why don't you come to Rwanda and help me with this? I can give you $1,000 a day consulting fees. I'm a young guy, then you consider I'm 24, 25, I think, right? And I think to myself, okay, I can give him some help. I guess so. Why not? I'll just contract everybody in the back office who can help me do the assignment. And off I go to Rwanda. And Rwanda, you can imagine in 2000, what was in Rwanda then? Rwanda was like a war-torn country, just coming out from chaos. But if you look at the opportunity in Rwanda then, you most likely would not have invested or not even have stepped in. And that's the first thing. Opportunity doesn't present itself in the way you want it to present itself. That's the first thing. So it's very easy to go into the airport and say, get me out on the next flight, right? But I continued, I went there, I went and did the consulting, did the design for the organization. I used my resources, used the people I knew who were technical, right? Because I was a finance guy, I knew what they wanted to accomplish. But I know James, John, and Jane somewhere who can actually help me with the design. So I was able to pull together these people we call freelancers. They were able to help me with the design. I got paid for the design, okay? And the next thing the customer requested, if I could implement it, okay? The next thing I said, okay, why not? I provided bill of materials. And the next thing I'm doing, I'm implementing the project, okay? So in the middle of the implementation of the project, I call resources and I figure out, first he tells me, look, we need to transfer 50% of the money to pay you as a deposit for the project. To be very honest, I never had a bank account. I never had a company name. But one time when I was in Dubai, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be nice to have a company called 7 Seas? Probably one day I can have 7 Seas Real Estate, 7 Seas Airline, 7 Seas something. And probably there's a good name. And that's how I got the name 7 Seas. I thought it was a global name that could allow me to do multiple things. Whether I want to be in real estate, I want to be in the airline business, whatever. So it became 7 Seas Technologies as a business, right? So quickly registered the company. Even before I could complete registration, I managed to get a bank account. Those days, the KYC rules, KYC is know your customer rules were not so strict. But I knew some bankers. Some of those bankers today are CEOs of banks. And why I'm saying this, the relationships and reputation as you go along your business as entrepreneur become very fundamental and very important. It's the people you mess up today that eventually you'll meet somewhere within your life cycle. So these guys, I'd worked with them in my previous company. They were bankers, they'd given me facilities, but then I was employed in this company. Hello? So what happened was, I set up an account in Barclays, I remember. And the next thing, I get the transfer from this company, and I start the project. I go and resource people in the various parts of Nairobi, people who could do network, people who could do data center work. And the next thing I do is I'm flying the teams off with me to Rwanda to do the project. So we finish implementing the project, and in the middle of doing the project, I sit in a restaurant and I get introduced to the next person. This is the military guys who are looking for wide area network solution. But I never knew it was called wide area network solution then. It was in 2000. Cisco was then becoming a major company. You remember Cisco then? And then they tell me, look, we've got a military bank. We want to sort of create, we've got soldiers working across, then Rwanda was a really military-driven country, right? So you've got probably different barracks. So imagine Ministry of Defense, you've got different barracks. Let's say you've one near Kanivo, you've one near KU, you've one here across. And you've got soldiers walking across because the main data center for the application was based in the central data center, or not via data center, server room. And these military guys had built an application that could do core banking. So they were doing microfinance, okay, for all the soldiers, right? So that's why the soldiers, the payroll accounts would be transferred and they would get loans. So it was really a microfinance organization that was running banking for the military. So the guy tells me, look, we don't want soldiers coming to this main city, right? Because it becomes a bit chaotic having soldiers coming to the main city to get money. But we want to try and create a distributed system with a centralized database where such that the soldiers can remain in the barracks and still have access to the system. These guys are illiterate. Can you imagine? They're not, so they probably, authentication is through biometrics, right? So these guys have built the application, but they're having problems having a centralized database. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what does this mean? So I go back home and to my hotel. I pull up my laptop. I go to the internet, and it was dial-up. You dial using the hotel internet. And I did a research about connectivity and wide area networks, and I came across a company called Cisco Systems. Okay? And I did a proposal. I configured. I figured out how it works. I found a contract in London. I figured out a proposal. I drew up the proposal. 2 days later, I had a proposal to demonstrate or to present to the military, right? So I packaged myself appropriately and went there with the presentation. I said that the presentation very interesting. And I presented the solution, okay? And they said, okay, we like it, would like to proceed with it. I said, my God, really? Are they serious this time? So quickly they said, okay, how would we do this? I told them, pay me 50% deposit. They told me, you must be dreaming. We're not paying you 50% deposit of 100,000 something contract, right? US dollar contract. I said, okay, so I thought quickly, give me a letter of credit. Then I'd only probably done letter of credit in school, in finance, right? So I take letter of credit, they tell me no problem. And remember, the people I'm presenting to have got all military kind of uniform, right? You're in not even a boardroom, you're in like a broken down room, right? But outside you can see bullet holes. So you're thinking to myself, am I crazy? Why am I doing this, right? But I figured out there's opportunity in this market. And the next thing, I'm in the bank, one of the banks there, which is now EcoBank. Then it was a bank called BCDI Bank. And I'm with this military guy again, he's head of finance. And I'm referring to letter of credit. I talk to the bankers. I then call my banker in Nairobi and explain to him I'm about to do a letter of credit. I'm not sure what it is, but can you help me understand how to structure it? And he explains to me what letter of credit is, how to structure it on call. You need to get it certified by Citibank. You need to have a fast call, right? You know, all the stuff with letter of credit. I'm not going to get into letter of credit right now. So I understood instruments of finance. So I take my letter of credit. I come to Nairobi very happy with letter of credit. I say, this is happening, right? Now it's around July. Now, September I need to be leaving to go to do my studies, right? Remember, its timeline is ticking, everything is ticking. So I think this is interesting. I'm gonna make 50% margin, 50% margin. I'm gonna make my 50K or whatever. And I'll have money because I'm looking at the business as my business. So I'm looking at debit and credit, everything coming to my pocket, right? So I'm thinking I'm gonna have more pocket money. I'm even probably going to buy a house in the US. So I'm thinking everything is looking good, right? So in the middle of implementation of this project, I shipped the goods. Now I didn't realize that I got an engineer from here who was not very competent those days, and he couldn't deliver the project. And the military guys are getting pissed off now. It's now August, right? They're not paying me, so I've been seriously in debt because I've delivered goods there, right? I need to pay the suppliers. So my first contractors pay the supplier goods, right? And the bank has probably loaned me money against my LC. Okay? Now I'm figuring out how do I actually deliver this transaction. Then I figured out, okay, I cannot go to the US. I looked for Cisco partners on the website. I looked for partners in the US, I needed a visa. I looked for partners in South Africa, too complicated. Partners in Dubai, I'm not sure. Eventually I got partners in India. So I quickly got a visa, went to India, called this company up, gave me an appointment for Saturday morning, took a flight to Bombay, So imagine I'm 26, I'm jumping I'm going to Bombay. So I land in Bombay, I remember 3 in the morning, right? 3 in the morning, my next flight is 6. So in my naivety, I go in out there I check out, I clear customs, and the connecting airport is like, let's say, another 5 kilometers away, by domestic airline, because I'm going to Bangalore. So I get conned, I get to an hotel that was really rubbish, and I'm wondering, I think these people might kill me here because it was really like being taken downtown, downtown Nairobi, in a hotel. So I quickly go back to the airport, I say I'm going to stay here till 6 o'clock, right? I then have a connecting flight to Bangalore. I meet the company, I go to a good hotel, okay, because reputation is important. So I check myself in a 5-star hotel, okay? Quickly dress up, by 8 o'clock they pick me up, I go and explain the solution, they tell me, yeah, we can do this for you, we've got engineers, blah, 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 blah. The next thing, I'm coming with an engineer back to Nairobi to help implement the project. So I come with him to Nairobi, we go to Rwanda. In a day, he was able to solve my problem. At least when he put the routers back to back. So I figured out, you mean there's so much money, you mean I had to go all the way to India to get a resource to help me fix this problem. Then what I never really bargained about, in those days there was no lease line. So when I did my solution, I had not really considered there was a lease line. Because for you to have connectivity between branches, you need lease lines, right? Today you take them for granted. You've got 64K, E1 links, right? You've got fiber optics. Those days, nothing like that. So the next thing we have a problem in how we're going to do the mode of connectivity between the locations. There's only access was lease lines. Lease lines are very slow, right? So the next thing we are doing is we are going to the data center of the telco, and we are configuring ISDN, which is is high-speed links on dial-up, right? So the solution worked, long and short of it. Then I sat there and told myself, if I've been able to transform and make $100,000 within 4 months, what am I going to do business school for? Okay, there's an opportunity. I will try this opportunity, and that's how we became one of the biggest integrators of Cisco systems in this market. I built that into a business, right? That's how we started our business, and that's how I became an entrepreneur. At that particular moment, I made a decision to proceed, okay, and grow the business from there. Now from there, then we went expanding our business to Uganda, we went expanding our business in Kenya, we went expanding our business beyond the value chain, beyond infrastructure level, we went into data centers, we went into applications, right? We went into development, we went looking for companies in Europe, like recently we just done an acquisition of a company in Portugal. We went doing that, expanding our business. And now the next thing is expanding our business across Africa. And the issues start coming up. Across Africa, I mean in Zambia, Zimbabwe, with offices, we expand our business now to places like Ghana and Nigeria. And again, I'm in Nigeria today. People tell me, are you crazy? How are you going to operate in Nigeria? Nigeria is chaotic, it's a big market, it's not for the faint-hearted, I tell you. But what keeps me going there is my experience in Rwanda those days. And I look at the opportunity in Nigeria and compare it to Kenya, for instance, the opportunity of business in Nigeria is 5 times that of Kenya. But what I can tell you, and probably I can give you advice, is the building blocks of a business. What are the building blocks of business? Number 1, courage and conviction. You need to have conviction that what you're doing is right. I think the moment you start second-guessing yourself, you have a problem. Because there are moments when everything looks so gloom, and you're wondering, will I really make it, right? At the point where you start second-guessing yourself, you're gone. Because then you cannot convince anybody else that you have a vision that they can live by. And there are times when I would say passion is a fundamental part in building a business. Because when things are tough, passion is what keeps you going. Because sometimes you've got this conviction that I need to do this, I can see that long-term goal, but you're not passionate enough to follow your dreams. And unfortunately, as a leader, if you're not passionate enough, then even people can't follow you because you need to inspire people using passion, right? You need to be passionate about what you're doing for people to follow you. And you talk about talent. How then do you get people who are competent to work with? Because remember, our business is about people. So today, if I was to start my business again from scratch, I would have started this business with 4 or 5 people as partners in my business. What do I mean by that? I would have started somebody who understood technology, somebody who was a good finance person, somebody who's very good at operations. I would have made them partners of my business from day one. Because probably it has taken me a much longer time to build that competency and to get those people as part and parcel of my business. If I had brought partners in my business and given them, and probably we would have shared equity accordingly amongst ourselves, I think would have been 2-3 times the size of our business today. So sometimes we look at you sort of want to own everything yourself. I don't think there's value in that. And going forward, I think there is more value in trying to distribute wealth across the organization by getting other people to be as engaged, as committed as you in the business. Now, in terms of moving forward, reputation is fundamental in our business. In anything you do, reputation. Because, think about it. The bank facility I got, the first bank facility, came because of reputation. Is that correct? Going forward, I can tell you cases where reputation has played the key role in raising capital, in closing business. Because sometimes we think we are looking at short term in terms of business, but then you compromise your reputation for a much longer, for a much shorter gain now. But long term, you don't realize how reputation will play a very key role to make you succeed. So reputation to me, I think, is incredible. So you need to guard your reputation with your heart. As an entrepreneur, you need to understand reputation is what keeps you going. Look, companies like IBM, the reputation is in the brand. Is that correct? But for you as an entrepreneur, what is reputation? Reputation is you. If I loan you money as a bank, if I loan you money as an entrepreneur, sorry, as an investor, if for instance I give you credit, you need to pay up the credit. So we need to understand sometimes, and that's something that I'm really hoping that as entrepreneurs and as all of you in this room, you need to understand that probably our value system at a country level is not aligned to what I'm saying, but reputation, you need to guard it. Forget about what you see politicians doing, right? That's a different ballgame. I think you need to understand as a business person and as an aspiring entrepreneur or even in your career, reputation plays a key role. The next thing is capital. We all talk about capital. I don't think capital is the first thing. Capital comes next. Capital can be looked at in various facets. For instance, when I started my business, I got capital from the customers, because the customers advanced me the deposits, right? I would never have been able to do the project without advance from the customers. Is that correct? The next thing, then you grow your business. Look at your business in terms of bits. You look at 3 years, 6 years, 9 years, 12 years. Your business in that life cycle undergoes its own kind of, it's sort of its own journey. So capital in the first 3 years, you're probably borrowing money from relatives who, remember, from a reputation point of view, you need to pay back, right? Right? You're probably getting money from your customers who give you deposits, then you don't take that money and pocket it and go buy the next fancy car, because they assume that you're going to deliver the project, so you deliver, right? The next thing, you also get money, capital, from suppliers. So suppliers lend you money, and I can tell you, the first phase of our business, suppliers, we traded with a lot of our suppliers' money. I remember a supplier owed money, so every day I would pay when I get a project. Probably I owed him, let me tell you, probably $200,000, 60 million. Remember, you're 26 years, 27 years, but you owe somebody 16 million, right? And the guy sits in London, right? But every day he called me, Mike, how are you doing? I said, I never ran away from his calls. I picked up, I told him, hey, John, how are you, John? How is everything? He told me, I'm chasing this project, I'm doing this, I'm following up this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. So I kept contact with the guy, because I knew that if I don't keep, generally most of us, when you owe people money, what you tend to do is, you put off your cell phone, you even change your cell phone 2-3 times. My cell phone number is still the same from those years, right? 13 years later. Because the first thing is, suppliers are going to carry you. And this guy, I can tell you, he supported us. And one day, we grew, he increased my limit from, remember we owed him $20,000, right? He increased my limit to $500,000, increased my limit to $1 million, right? And we kept on revolving. We paid him the 16 million, you go to the next project, you continue, right? That's the way you grow your business, through reputation. Because some people will believe in you, okay? And the next area of how you start raising money, the next phase of raising money, is when you have got financial statements. So I come back now to governance, right? So from day one, we have financial books. You need to keep your books of account, right? You need to realize that from a corporate governance point of view, the money that you have in your bank is not your money. It's not your personal money. So you can't take it and spend it in the way you feel like. You need to remember, you need to account for every penny. So corporate governance is from the first day one, have books of accounts. You need, at whatever cost, to make sure you have books of accounts. Fine, KRA is going to tell you, you probably need to file accounts after 18 months, right? But if you've not been filing, how are you going to remember what you did when you started the company? And the moment the KRA recognizes your books, is from the day the company was registered, right? They have an audit trail, right? So you need to understand, corporate governance is important. The money that you have in your account is not your money. It's a company money. The company is an instrument, it's actually an organization, a vehicle that is separate from you. So now, you cannot then go to the next phase of raising capital from financial organizations if you do not have books of accounts. Because the first thing they ask you is, give me your accounts. But you've not been keeping your accounts. So you say, okay, I don't have accounts. They say, you can't talk. You can't even have a discussion, right? So you need book of accounts because the banks are going to ask, show me audited statements, right? Now, if you don't have audited statements, the next phase of raising capital, you always need to go to banks. And banks will then lend you money. Probably they'll lend you money not by giving you a facility, but they'll probably give you a facility, not cash, but they'll probably tell you, okay, you have a purchase order. You show me the customer PO. The customer PO is a bankable PO, right? I can lend you against that PO. Is that correct? That's the way to raise. That's how banks raise money. Now, the next phase of that raising capital, the next let's say 6 to 9 years, how we raise capital? We raise capital through a venture capital. We brought in an angel investor. So I bring the next point, angel investor. This is somebody I met, very talented, and I don't think we have many of these angel investors in this market. He did not invest in the balance sheet of the company, invested in me as an individual. So you understand, reputation plays a key role, right? A lot of people are going to invest in you as an entrepreneur, as an individual, not through your balance sheet or your P&L, because you have nothing to show. What is your P&L after 4 years? What is it? Nothing. But people are going to invest because of you, because they are investing in your hopes and dreams. So you need to be able to demonstrate that you're a bankable person. Okay, so he invested in us. He was very good. He was a very good. He also doubled up as a good mentor. So another challenge we all have is that as we build our businesses, we don't have good mentors, right? So you're there in the dark, okay, like we are right now, right? So you're wondering, how will I go, right? The only thing you have is your passion and your vision, but there's nobody you can really have a sounding board with. Not the guys you have drinks with. It's not your girlfriend, most likely, right? Or your boyfriend, most likely. It's not somebody who has to create time like myself today. I need to create time for some of you, and that's why I'm here. I'm here not because there's any value I'm going to get from you guys, and I'm sure I'm going to get value from the questions you ask, but the value of giving back to you this way. Because when I was building a business, there was nobody telling me about this stuff. There was nobody, right? So luckily I found a mentor who you could probably share your ideas with, right? So one of the biggest things we have, the challenges we have as entrepreneurs, is getting right mentors who then sort of, they don't tell you what to do, but sort of becomes a good sounding board for you to rationalize your thoughts with. So assuming I tell them I want to go to Uganda, the guy will ask me 2-3 questions. What are you going to do? What's your value proposition, right? How are you going to fund it? How are you going to do this? And somebody you have who has a listening ear to you. Somebody constantly you can call and you sort of can brainstorm with, right? But they're not necessarily telling you what to do. The decision for you to do what you need to do has to remain with you. The conviction has to remain with you. But sort of they guide you, right? So mentorship became very, very important for me going forward. And I think one of the success factors of our business has been having a good mentor as an entrepreneur CEO. Now, this mentor also gave us capital. They invested in our dreams. And I can tell you they never asked us for balance sheets, P&L, no nothing. And today probably one of these days when I list the business, I'm probably going to invest in people's dreams. But when you invest somebody's dreams, you invest in his vision and capacity to see that they can execute. Don't just come and tell me a vision, tell me I've not started anything. You need to start something and be able to demonstrate that you've been doing something, right? Not just a plan, a big audacious plan, but you don't have any substance behind it. You need to be able to demonstrate that you've started from somewhere, right? Even iHub, for instance, I'm sure they must have built this place before they got investors. You don't just start and say, okay, I've got a good plan, can you guys give us capital? So we got the angel investor. Then the angel investor helped us with capital to grow our business, but not much capital. It was then helping you just put things together. Then eventually, as we grew in our 8th year or 7th year, we then brought in venture capital, or what I call private equity. Okay? Now, what is private equity? Private equity are guys who invest in your business, okay? Who look at your business plan. Trust me, those guys look at your financials, business plan, everything you ever read in business school, they request for. And they'll definitely invest in your business, not like your mother and father who invest in your business hoping no return. These guys invest clearly knowing, I want a return. Bottom line. So you have to be ready as a business to be able to bring in venture capital or private equity, because they're very clear from inception that you need to be able to bring a return. Now, if you don't understand or get the right professional help to help you structure your legal agreements, you can eventually end up, not having a business. Because they'll just do clawback, and the shares you own become their shares because you never deliver to your commitment. You understand? So it's very important for you then to start seeking professional help in how to structure some of these agreements. And professional help, I mean legal help and financial transaction help. So how do you put your legal agreements to be able to see you through that kind of engagement? with the private equity guys, okay? So today we are raising capital. The same thing applies. Just because I raised capital many years ago, sorry, 4 years ago, I also need to raise capital now. The same question. Show me your business plan. Show me your HR plan. Show me your marketing plan. Show me your investment plan. Show me how you're going to use money. It's a whole process. It will probably take 3 months to raise the capital, and it will even cost you to raise capital because you have to hire the consultants. And the consultants probably cost, like right now probably a consultant will probably cost an arm and a leg. They even probably charge a percentage of the money you raise, right? But it's important to have these guys on board. So that's now a journey on how to raise capital. But not from day one, you probably are looking for capital. It may not happen, right? You need to be able to demonstrate that you can actually, you have the tenacity to run a business. Now, I talked about reputation, I talked about mentorship, and I need to talk about processes and systems. Now, what happens if you grow your business? When we were growing our business, we were not lucky to have cloud, you know? You know what I mean by cloud? You do not have financial systems on the cloud. You're not lucky enough to have financial HR systems on the cloud to run your payroll. You're not lucky enough to have marketing systems in the cloud like Salesforce so we maintained our everything on Excel. We had to go probably pirate some software at the beginning to run your financial systems. It was difficult because you need to have a server room, then you need to share internet. Those days we used to get internet from Swift in a building. You have a small office, you're trying to share connectivity which sometimes is up or down, you know. You have your own Exchange server, which sometimes is working, not working, you know. Today, you have access. You're so lucky as entrepreneurs because today you're capable of pushing everything on the cloud, right? So from day one, you need to automate your business. And for us, for instance, everything in our business, apart from our ERP, which we're pushing to the cloud, everything is on the cloud. Our financial systems, our HR systems on the cloud, our sales process on the cloud, our project management is on the cloud, our even leave management is on the cloud, our claim management on the cloud. We push everything on the cloud. We pay a figure per year, per month, per user for the use. Now it's easy because I don't have to maintain a big infrastructure as an organization to maintain this. When I started this, we had to have a server room. It was costing us. We had to hire people, and we are still a tech company. We could not do it properly for ourselves sometimes, you know. But at the end of the day, we found that systems are critical. Now, as you go along in your organization and you start hiring people, initially you can have a small committee of 5 of you. You agree everything is like a breakfast table. You agree what you need to do because it's about I talk to you, do this. The next guy, let's do this. You know, you sort of have a committee where you agree what to do every day. But as you grow your business, you start realizing you need systems and processes, right? Sales processes, acquisition, delivery processes, HR processes, that becomes critical in your business. And as you become old as an organization, like now we are undergoing also, even as a company our size, we are undergoing something called a transformation organization process as a company, right? We have to undergo it because we know for us to scale across Africa, if we do not have the right structures and processes in the company, what happens is like growing a company and the seams of your jacket are not tight. What happens as you grow and scale, everything one day can just fall apart. So you need to be able to make sure that what joins your company is your company processes. Now, that is critical as you grow your business. You cannot delegate that. You need to make sure you understand how to grow it. And I can tell you simple processes. How do you acquire customers? How do you deliver customers? Even how do you onboard employees? And I come to the next thing, talent. So, our business today, we are 100 something, okay? Those days we used to be 20, we grew to 20. 20, my span of control as a business was as CEO, I knew what everybody was doing. Even I could tell you, some people would tell me, Mike, I'm going to Ethiopia for a project. I know Ethiopia is cold, I don't have a sweater. Can you? So I have to make sure that the guy has a sweater. You understand now? Because then everybody thinks you're father and mother to them across the organization. And that's how it is. Because you're the one who puts the glue together in the company. But as the company grows, you start realizing your span of control you need to be able to give it to other people. Now, how did we try and hire? At the beginning, hiring people was difficult because remember the way we are conditioned as a culture, and I'm very happy of the likes of iHub. We are conditioned in those days, even still today, that when you finish university or school, you need to work for a multinational. Is that correct? You're told you need to work for the big boys. The big boys are stable. Yeah? Those are the big boys. And unfortunately, it's a very bad way of how we are conditioned. It's so sad because you're told you need to work for the big boys. You cannot work for startups. So you'll never get the good guys working for you. Is that correct? Because the good guys They'd rather go and work with them. And unfortunately, so there's a competition of talent, okay, between you as startups and the big companies. So we have to think out of the box in terms of solving this issue. So one day I got fed up of this whole process. I said, I need to hire talented teams. How do I develop talented teams? So one day I'm coming from home, and it's an interesting story. I'm coming from home, and I'm thinking, I'm going to finish the next 5 minutes. So I'm coming from home, and I'm thinking, how do I develop talent? So I drive to JQuat, JQuat, right? And I'm sitting at the cafeteria. And I'm thinking, I went to the server room, I told the IT manager there, who are the most interested students that work with you? That was probably 8 years ago, okay? So he told me, I know a guy called Philip, I know a guy called Paula, I know Paula, I know somebody else called James, I know somebody else called Edward, whatever, right? So you have different people. I said, okay, why don't you call them? So I'm in the cafeteria, it's probably a Thursday morning, Tuesday morning, Thursday or Tuesday morning. So I started to explain to these guys in the 3rd year, 4th year about my dream about building a business. So they look at me, this guy is crazy, what is he saying? So I explained to them how we can build a business, what we can do. And the next thing, I convinced them on Saturdays to come to my office, okay? I paid for their bus fare, for them to come and spend time in my office. So in their 4th year, they spend time on Saturdays in my office, and one guy brings the next guy brings the next guy, right? So soon, in a typical Saturday, I would have 20, 30 people in my office, okay? They're all in their 3rd, 4th year, okay? But what happened, by the time they finished university, and some of them had first class honors, where we had developed a rapport, so where was the first place they came to work? Our organization. So they all gave up their career, they all gave up their big jobs in PwC to come and work for the organization. And what we figured out was, the biggest challenges that education people have when they finish university is the issue of you probably live with your relative, right? You probably have to commute 2 hours every day. When you finish work at 7 o'clock, you're probably going to be in a matatu for 2.5 hours in traffic. So we made a decision. We got guest houses. We actually rented houses around our office, 3-bedroom houses, and we put all these guys from university. We rented for them and furnished their homes. We gave them a house help. We gave them cooks. We gave them internet. We gave them laptops, and they would walk every day to the office. So all of a sudden, those guys who had 3 hours morning, who had to go to the bus stop and wait for buses and everything, they had those 3 hours to come to the office. So they spend time in our office as opposed to the bus stop, right? They would go home, and in the evening they would leave at 5 o'clock, go to the soccer, play some soccer, go home and come back to the office. So we're able to increase the productivity hours for those guys as opposed to being the bus stop. They were actually coming to the office, right? And those guys were very loyal to us, and that's how we were able to create a value proposition that was different from the multinationals. And that still happens till today. So you need to create a value proposition of talent as you go along. Now, the next thing is then how do you develop a middle management? Because now the company has grown to 60 people, 70 people. So you have a big challenge. You need to have talent people, you need to have head of HR, you need to have head of marketing, you need to have head of sales. Now that becomes then the next challenge, right? So you need to be able to create rewarding careers across the organization for different individuals. Now, the next challenge you have is, as you develop this talent, you then need to look at retention. Because now what has happened in the market, people then know you've got very good talent. So you need to be able to invest in this talent. So the challenge you have is retention, because what happens as you develop this talent, they then get poached by the big boys, right? Okay? That is the multinationals, the telcos, the bankers, right? The banking organization. So what happens? You're constantly battling, keeping talent, okay, and training more talent. Now, what I've sort of come to accept is that from my organization, I built many other entrepreneurs. So today I can probably count 15 people who have worked with me that today are big entrepreneurs. Probably the biggest company in Rwanda, the first person who walked into my office to be hired from my story, today has the biggest technology company in Rwanda. Okay? But he worked for me for 8 years or 6 years, right? You've got people leaving the company, and I always tell them, if you leave my organization, please open your own company, right? And we say we'd rather be seeing many other entrepreneurs being born from our organization, and that makes us happy because then it means, even as we get larger projects, we can outsource part of these projects to people we know, okay? Through an ecosystem of partners. So my dream, from a talent point of view, is to say one day that even as I pursue our business in countries like Angola or Nigeria or Ghana, when I get big projects there, I can pull along with me some of the people who have set up their own companies across Africa. That is really the way I see talent and the talent ecosystem today, okay? And in terms of brand, See, when you start your company, the brand is you. And this is my closing point. When you start a company, the brand is you. The brand is what I talked about, reputation is you. So when you go see customers, the customers are going to give you the projects because they believe in you. So I can tell you, in all my life, as an entrepreneur, the people who gave me breaks were people who believed in me, right? Somebody gave you a break, you just went for a presentation, they looked at you, you're so passionate, you're so engaged, they say, I'm gonna put my career online for you. Let me give you this project. There's always that person, those unique people, okay, we're not going to look at you like you're a startup, but people are going to look at you and say, I'm going to give you that opportunity. And I'm always saying in my life, I need to always give opportunities because I was also given the same opportunity that way, right? So you also need to give people opportunities in whatever jobs you do. Could be wherever you are. You need to be able to say, you could be the person who gives the next person there, they break the need, right? And you happen, so the first 3 years, the first few years is about you in terms of as an entrepreneur. The next years is you and your staff. So you have good engineers, you've got good talent. So the brand of your company is you and your team. Is that correct? The next growth, the brand of your company is that of the companies you do work for. So now it's no longer about your team, it's about who are the companies that are associated working with you. So you do business with Safaricom, you do business with the next company, you do business with the next bank. So you're able to say your credentials when you go and present to companies, it's about the work you've done. Is that correct? The next phase of growth in terms of brand is where beyond that you could be able to say you give back to the community, right? You're able to become a leader in one industry where people perceive you as a leader in that industry. That is important because you need to create that value proposition that when people see your business, they understand you're a leader in that industry. Okay? And the next thing, once you grow your business, even if you've seen big corporates, the moment you grow beyond a mobile operator, for instance, then you become the biggest guy in mobile money. Is that correct? It's not like money, mobile money doesn't make you all the money. It doesn't even make you, the money you still make it from the traditional voice, right? But mobile money becomes what you get known for across the world. Is that correct? So you need to find out what is it about your business that will make you get known across the global world. And most likely what will get known across the world is not necessarily what you do on a day-to-day basis. Something that probably when you started, you never knew it's going to be a big hit. Okay? So that to me is our journey. We are very bullish in terms of where we want to go. We are hoping in the next by 2015 we are $100 million business. Today we are a $40 million business. So in the next 3 years we plan. We also hope to be a Pan-African business in multiple countries, in Angola, in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Zambia, Zimbabwe, in Ethiopia, Kenya, and those are the markets we plan to do. We also hope to do a few acquisitions as we grow because we don't think we can grow organically anymore. So we plan to go up the value chain by doing acquisitions of companies either in Africa or in Europe, companies that need to be in Africa. And I've always said, like it or not, I've always said we need to be the Accenture of Africa, right? So when people look at Africa, they say, is that one company that can still be able to offer us value and solutions with an African touch? That is, and at the same time, always my big, huge audacious goal is to say that even as we grow and scale to become a multi-million-dollar company, our company still remains entrepreneurial, and we're still able to make a lot of people who work for us wealthy. So I want to be able to demonstrate a company that has been able to make its employees wealthy, okay? Because today, unfortunately, a lot of people want to work for Facebook, or want to work for Microsoft, or want to work for Google, because Google has been able, those companies have been able to demonstrate in America that working for them you can become wealthy. But unfortunately for our markets in Africa, very few companies have been able to demonstrate that working for a startup, you can actually go and create your dream. So I'm hoping that by doing that, I'll be able to change the way African companies are perceived and the way the African companies are run. Okay? Thank you.
Thanks.
Questions?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Those are wise words from Mike. And with that, I'll actually make a few comments, Mike. I'm actually keen to know, like, the role models in your life.
The role models in my life?
Yes.
The answer to that question, I think that's noticed.
All right.
It's a good question. I'll
Yeah.
probably find out, yes.
Yeah, like,
I have many role models, I think.
growing your business and 25, starting your business at 25, what did your family have to do with it? Like, is there any input from your family?
I think my family was, first were pissed off that I dropped from campus, so you can imagine for a very long time they were not very amused. They thought I'd lost it. Okay. So I would say that sometimes it's not about your family, it's about the family will support you. Eventually they come around and say, let's support the guy. Okay? But when you make that journey, you're by yourself. I can tell you, it's not about you and your family. It can sound controversial, but I can tell you, that journey is going to be your own journey. So you have to want that journey knowing it's a journey you need to make. Thank you. It's a journey you need to build for yourself. So I wouldn't say the family became supportive. Okay, as we went along, they saw this can be done, right? And when they realized I'm not turning back, because they figured out I had a high level of conviction of where I was going. But sometimes a lot of, and look, when I can tell you an example. When I first brought the students from university, remember my journey, I had one day to have a session with the parents. So one day I organized dinner. The parents from all the people working for me came for this dinner. I had to convince them that actually I'm a good company to work for. Because they actually thought the people working for me were mad. Their kids had gone crazy. So you understand? So you understand the negative assumption of working for a startup. Who are those people? Who is that? Because I can't tell my friends that you work for which company. You understand? Because they are proud to know that you work for this company. You get my point? But unfortunately, it's not something they enjoy. So you need to realize at some point, the family is going to be sort of not a very big supporter for you at some point. At some point. But eventually they come around because they're family, I guess.
Right. Role models. I'd like to know what your role models.
I think role models are. I must be honest, I have very few role models in this country I look up to. Okay? Yeah, thank you. And probably could sound controversial. Why? Because I remember I had a good role model that was my former chairman who passed on. He was called James Gashui. He gave without expecting too much. Okay? Unfortunately, most of us, even role models we have, they still want something from you, you know? So I would say from a market, from local market, I don't have a very few role models. Probably Mangare Madai because she believed in something and fought for it. I think her sheer passion and fighting for something she believed in reminds me of what the journey and the challenges you face as an entrepreneur today. Let me give you an example. I go to cases where we keep fighting with people in government, ICT board and all these guys, where they say, oh, local companies don't have capacity, we need to make sure we blend them with international companies. And I say, you guys, these companies you keep saying we don't have capacity, what do you mean by this statement, right? So it's sad that sometimes you have to go and prove yourself out there before you get even accepted in your own market. When I go to Nigeria, for instance, they're so happy to embrace it. They say, wow, you look up to Kenya, come here, we can do this with you. You get my point? But it's funny, it's just sad, but I think, even in the Bible, I think Moses was not accepted in his own place. Is it Moses or Abraham? Somebody like one of those guys, right?
All right, I'll open the floor for questions. Please stand up and introduce yourself. Questions on the floor? Please go ahead.
My name is Kenneth Jundu. I'm a proprietor of a platform technologies down the street, and it's a startup about a year old. And I'm particularly interested in the part where you talked about between the 3 and 6 year mark of growth, when you were beginning to expand into applications and other aspects of the technology business. Was there a particular line of business where you tried to expand into and maybe found you didn't have any success? And if so, how did you make that decision, and at what point did you decide to maybe drop off that and pursue more lucrative ventures?
Okay. Just to answer that, yes, we did. We pursued. You see, you have a challenge of being a fast mover. The challenge of taking a fast mover advantage or starting a new business. So when we started our business 3 to 6 years, what we tried to do, we tried to become a services organization. Those days it was, I would say, 2003 and 4. We tried to offer things like security consulting services, architecture services. When a market, you don't even understand what security was. So because it was happening in India, I thought, wow, we can do things like managed services. People would ask, what is managed services? So you start to invest, you're very passionate about it, but the market is not ready to take your product. So you have to be very careful in terms of when you think you need to be in the market. So today somebody was telling me, Mike, some of our business plans, some of the stuff we plan to do, we're going to be the first in the market, right, to do them across Africa. But he said you need to be careful that you don't become the first person to make the mistakes. Because then the market never forgives you. Then you die from the mistakes, and you're never able to come out from the mistakes. But other people, then the next people who come on board, right, then benefit from your mistakes because they learn from you. And I've seen that in the call center business. See, a lot of call centers started, they died, right? But other people now are coming, and from the mistakes that the first guys learned, they're taking advantage of those mistakes and learning from those mistakes. But they don't stop you from mitigating your risk, okay, and doing enough research to understand what businesses you need to be in. But it's a balance between what keeps the lights on vis-a-vis the new areas you're going to. So you have to be careful you don't kill the golden goose. Yeah, you understand? Don't kill the golden goose. Because sometimes you start new ventures and you kill the golden goose.
Savannah Fund. So I would like to talk about more, because obviously I've started a venture capital fund in Africa, which some people have called me crazy even in Silicon Valley. I wanted to hear more about your thoughts where you think Kenya is ready, Africa is ready for venture capital. I mean, you took outside capital in the end, right?
Yes.
I find it very hard to convince. Right now, we're actually big companies for First Accelerator. And I spend more time explaining to companies the value we bring as we're a business partner, we don't have venture capitalist or whatever it is. I've noticed that in Kenya generally, people just don't see it that way. They just see it as money, and they just want to take it and use it for themselves. They don't see us as a business partner. Do you really think that Kenya or Africa is actually ready for venture capital?
I think Africa is ready for venture capital. I think it's education among entrepreneurs. First, I talked about mentorship. For me to accept money, I remember my mentor, then who was my chairman of the company, had to convince me why it's important to let go in the company and not own everything. That's the first thing. I think he played a very key role for us accepting external people to join the company. So I think most of entrepreneurs don't have enough knowledge or enough mentors around them to be able to advise them this is the right thing to do. Okay, that's the challenge we face. There's also this mentality of owning everything. Okay, so there's a level of corporate governance. I think the VC funds need to do is repackage the way they position money. If you asked me 3 years ago, when I was 3 years old as a business, what I wanted a mentor. I wanted somebody who could help me transform my business and be there with me. I was not really looking for money. I was looking for me. I was looking not for large amounts of money, but I was looking for that mentor who could help me transform the business. So the challenge you have as a VC fund today is different from a PE fund. A PE fund is private equity, where they put money, they sit in the board, where the numbers will do the clawback. So the challenge for you is going to be, how do you structure your shareholders agreement? What kind of demonstrable value do you show to these companies? Okay? And how do you then convince those entrepreneurs to come on board because they see value, that you bring value that is tangible. And sometimes that value is not necessarily money. And also the next thing I also realize at that level, what you want is friendship. You do business with people you like. Even when you get money, you probably do business with people you like. I can tell you today, if I don't like the VC fund that is funding my business or PE fund, I'm not going to get them into my business. Because why? They want to sit in the same board meeting. And if already we fall out at the point where we don't like each other or we don't connect, there's a high likelihood there's going to be problems at a certain level. Because it's not necessarily, the journey is not always smooth, right? Sometimes it's tough. I mean, it's tough is when you really question and you really understand what the other person is all about. Because then you realize this person is not the person I thought they were. Wow, they want their money, they want their return. So you need to sort of repackage the way you offer your services to this organization.
As a quick follow-up, obviously when you started out, there was no demo conference, prize money, these impact investors, donors giving money to entrepreneurs. And back to your point about when, it's a journey, right? And you want someone who can help you, mentor you when you have problems. Do you feel like the environment has become a little bit crazy with all this just confusion in the marketplace with donor money, impact money? I got an email today that we can't join you because we got money from this organization and it's free, and they don't actually value that mentorship. They don't even need it.
I think it's a very controversial position I take. I think this issue of giving people having competition, the people who need money, is probably the worst thing that will ever happen to this country. Because the people giving this money, it's not even their money. If I tell you, if it's your hard-earned money, Well, you've probably made $100 million. I tell you now, go and give people $50,000 grant, $60,000. Most people, the same people giving all the money, will never give any of those money, will never actually issue any of those grants. That's my personal opinion. So you sort of it's government money, it's donor money, you sort of donate it, you give it with no really long-term business objective. You can't just come on weekend, you develop software and I give you $100,000. Because I think you're also breeding the wrong entrepreneurs. That's my personal position on that. I think if I got money that way, I would have sort of developed a business to quickly build small businesses, get 100K, quickly 100K. That's not my business model. That's my personal opinion. So I think we are just, and I just hope it doesn't then cloud the whole VC industry. Because what happens now, you're going to start facing those kind of problems. Where somebody says, I've just received 100K, I don't need your money. So everybody will start receiving. At some point, there'll be no projects that are worth showing. And we can't sit as a country and say, we're looking for that one Facebook or that one Twitter to come from our country. I think it's the wrong way to sort of think and grow a business. That's for a country in terms of innovation. Because you're not going to get that one Twitter that's going to come. The Twitter is going to come by addressing specific company or specific industry problems. And understanding the financial model that links the problems you're solving to your business plan. That's my personal opinion on that. It's controversial, so we don't necessarily see eye to eye on that issue. But the guys are my friends, but I tell them this is the wrong thing you're doing.
Mike, you're aspiring tech VC. Are you investing in any local startups or any startups across Africa?
See, what we're doing is, when I say I'm an aspiring tech VC, I hope one day I'll be able to give experiences to some people trying to start up a business. For instance, to start a business, you don't understand how to do, even how to package your business, branding, for instance. And I'll give you an example. I look at countries like Ireland, Enterprise Island, right? What the government has done there instead is create an Enterprise Island where you go, they help you, they actually pay. I would rather than giving out giving out awards, this kind of awards or this kind of monies, I'd rather you create a shared services structure where when I want a lawyer, okay, I can go to that place, or you put the money in a central area where when I want a lawyer, I can go and get legal services from that place. Because most likely as a startup, you probably want to compromise on the legal area. So I'd rather you put $3 million of that money into a shared services center run by professionals. You bring the likes of PwC or whatever, KPMG, you bring lawyer firms, you bring all that kind of ecosystem, and they then work with you to sort of help you with the business plans and everything else. I think even marketing organization, how do you brand your company? How do you even create your logo? How do you create, when you call your company Kenya application or whatever you want to call it, it means you limited your business to Kenya. Because it means when you want to sell your product, it's highly limited to Kenya. So as a tech VC, what I see as a future, once we be able to go public or sell our business and I become a tech VC, what I'll help entrepreneurs is sort of help them crystallize their vision, right? Give them a roadmap, work with them on a typical roadmap to help them become successful. And knowing very well that some ideas will fail, and some ideas will flourish. But I can tell you, a high level of investment when I become a tech VC will be, I'll invest in people. I'll invest in you as an individual, not in your idea. Today you may have a good idea. The idea works today, tomorrow it doesn't work. Do I then tell you you're a bad guy? It means you could have capability to come with the next idea, right? So I think what you need to do is invest in people, and in those people, once you invest in them, they will come with the next idea, next idea, next idea. Is that correct? That's how I see it. Now, as a company, are we investing in companies? Look, I've said earlier that we're raising capital to invest in companies that are complementary to our business. Let me give you an example. We're a big infrastructure, software, whatever business. If, for instance, I'm developing an application, or I'm doing cloud business, okay, and I see you have a software that I can be able to put on our cloud offering, then it makes sense for us to invest in you. I'll do so because it's a complementary business to our business. But I'm not going to invest in any business today that is sort of tangent. My business is going this way and your business is going this way, because I don't think I'll give you the time of day. And neither will you be able to leverage on our economies of scale as a business, because I'm hoping as we grow our business, we then can help other smaller companies grow, and they can attach themselves on our business and can then grow together. So for instance, if I go to Nigeria and close a big business with a bank, and your business you can build your business. Let's say I do BI, business intelligence for a bank, and you do something called customer analytics. You know, an application that can do customer analytics from Android or from Apple, whatever, right? And then can be able to invest in your company because I know I can plug your product directly into my organization. Then I can help you create value because you're building on my reputation, on my customer base. Get my point? That's how I see any investments we put in companies today. That's the way we look at it.
All right. A few questions from the back. Yes. Stand up.
My name is Leonard, and you mentioned a little bit about the journey not being smooth, and I would like to hear about the pain points.
The journey did not smooth. I mean, there are times when you're going to have near-death experiences. Have you heard of near-death? You almost die as a business, right? That day you wake up and realize, do I continue or don't I continue? There'll be that day when it will be so challenging and you're wondering, should I close or should I proceed? Okay? Those are near-death. And near-death could be, you probably never looked at your cash flow, right? You probably focus so much about growth of your business. On growth, you focus so much about developing a product, but you forgot you need to sell it. You forgot that cash is key. And that's typical problems in terms of how you can see near-death experiences. The next thing, you can see where journey is not smooth, is when you can lose a big customer. You can have an anchor customer who you build your business from, and one day there could be change of management, and you could easily, tables could change, the tide could change, right? That anchor customer then doesn't become necessarily your anchor customer. That could also be a situation. So they could also have situations where the journey is not smooth, where you develop talent. You have people you almost feel they're like your brothers and sisters. Okay? They are connected. You know, they were there when they joined your company. They could not put their tie right. Today you polish them up. They are polished. They are smart. They've traveled on your bill, and the next thing they come and tell you on an SMS, I'm quitting. And you sit there and look and say, my God, how does this work, right? So there are those moments where you thought you were with them, but they're not with you, right? So those times are tough, right? There are times are tough whereby you lose a project that you thought would make, you had gambled everything in your life on this project and never came through. So the challenge for us is, in those tough moments, what keeps you going, as I mentioned earlier, is your passion and your commitment and your level, you have a level of conviction that you're going to win, right? So you don't quit. You remember you have the battle and you have the war to win. So don't focus on the battles just because you've lost this battle. Win the main one, okay? So there are many moments. There's no, I can't tell you specific. I've just told you the ones I've seen is cash, people, okay, process, loss of customers, right? So there are typical areas where things fall apart. And also yourself, your emotional being. You could reach a point whereby you've got your own so many personal problems that you lose focus of driving your business. That also becomes a problem. Okay?
Okay, my name is Kenneth. I represent citizen journalism outfit. And one maybe comment about the competitions. You know, I also agree with you on that one. I think it's a bad way to think about, you know, starting any venture. And also, I also think they're not doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They're really harvesting ideas that they can play around with. So to get to my question is, well, sometimes you want to get maybe investors in your organization, but you know, like, what are the main? You were talking about a team. You know, what do you think is essential for you to have a successful business? You know, in terms of a team, and then maybe you can say maybe there's finance and marketing, but then again, how do you look at opportunities within already established companies that actually could swallow you up, and yet you need them to get to the next level?
Okay, I think in terms of team, I think the first thing you need to do is determine, no, every business is something called a gating process. No, you have from A to Z. Let me give you an example. If I'm selling tea, it's Peet's tea, okay, coffee. A typical life cycle of Peet's coffee from A to Z will be supply chain, is that correct? Meaning that if he has wrong suppliers for product, the end product may be a problem, is that correct? So sourcing for him is key, at the right price, right? The art of brewing coffee is also important. The art of delivering the coffee to the customer is important in terms of customer service. And finally, the collection. So for him, those are 4 areas where things could go wrong. Is that correct? So in every business, there are typical areas where your business could go wrong. So the first thing is to figure out what are the typical areas that are critical for you to be able to, what are the critical pillars for your business? So if you're a development company, quality control could be an issue, marketing could be an issue, you need sales, right? You need finance, okay? And you need support, customer service, right? And marketing, okay? Those are 5 areas that are critical. So if you're developing a team, you need to then be able to have teams that oversee those 4 pillars. So if you're Peet's Coffee, coming back to basics, you need to know the guy who brews the coffee plays a fundamental role to your success, is that correct? The guy who collects money is a critical guy. Imagine you brew good coffee, but the guy collecting money doesn't know how to price it, doesn't collect it on time. What happens? You don't have a cash flow, is that correct? The guy who supplies raw materials, if he buys the wrong raw materials in the morning, then you're sure not going to have any coffee, even if you have got lots of customers, is that correct? So you need to figure out in your business, what are the pillars in your business that you need to support. Those are the pillars that you need to get a supporting team to assist you with, okay? The next question in terms of, what is the next question? In terms of companies that can become partners, but eventually they can cannibalize your business. That is a reality. You'll have to work with people who, when they turn around, they can consume your business. But you need to be able to mitigate, okay, and be able to know when to pull end. And they could give you, how does that work? You could have one large customer. The customer expects, for instance, we used to have a large customer like that. They expect everything from us, you know. So you mean you almost, your soul of the company is almost geared towards this large customer, right? So the moment they decide they no longer want your services, you could find yourself being left that you're focused so much on this main customer that you never gave time to grow other customers. Is that correct? And that could also be a problem because then you're building your business model around this customer, right? So you also need to be careful that in all this you need to look at risk and be able to look at yourself in every business. It's about risk. You need to ask yourself, as I'm building this business and all my business is this customer, am I developing alternative customers that I can work with? Okay? You can also have partners who want also to do acquisition of your business. Now again, even us today, in every business, we also look long-term at exit. So if somebody comes after 4 years and tells us, look, you guys have grown your business in Africa, we want to acquire, you guys are giving us problems in our markets, you're taking some of our market share, and we want to acquire your business, you also need to be ready to say, okay, take it. Is that correct? You cannot again remain, if you look at it strategically, it's like a good acquisition, you take it and move.
It's business.
It's business. You don't become so emotionally attached to business that I can't go forward. Again, it's business. You need to look at it, you need to consider, you need to check if remaining on this business still makes sense, or if these guys are going to destroy my business, right? You need to make a decision then.
Go ahead. So, you talked about investing in people, yeah? But I think in every financial market, there's usually strong trends. You know, like take for example in Kenya right now, we have a strong trend towards investing in real estate and the like, you know. So what advice would you give to entrepreneurs whose businesses are kind of, should I say, out of fashion? How can they convince people that their business is a good idea to invest in?
I think it's not convincing. I think the first thing is to understand the country, where we are coming from. I think we have very few success stories that, or somehow as a country, our culture is such that you do not want to talk about your success. Is that correct? That's how we have been cultured. You remain small, even you're successful, you still remain small, you don't say it. So what happens, the investors out there, who is Mama X, who has invested in this Chama, That chama can easily put money in your business. What do? They go for what they know, which is real estate and shares. Is that correct? They don't put money in your business. Because again, there are very few success stories that you can talk about. But look at America, for instance, or in some other developed markets. People see Facebook, people see Twitter, people see Microsoft. They've seen success stories that are successful, that people are seeing, look, if I put money into this investment, I would probably have been successful. Is that correct? As an investor. So we think we still have a long way to move away from brick and mortar in terms of investors, in terms of investment, to where people start pulling together to invest in your business. And that's why I think the opportunity for VCs, like my colleague here, is paramount for them to come on board. But at the same time, it's not helping when we have grants all over the place, trying to develop the next app for you to have your 100K, okay, which is not measured in terms of, very few of those companies, I think I can probably know 2, 3, who have received that money, that now the next thing what they should try to do is showcase what those companies have done with this money. Because if an investor puts money in your business, they want to see return, is that correct? So what I think should happen probably, I hope can happen, and I've seen that in Nigeria, and I've seen that in Portugal, and I've seen that in some markets. The government has decided to create its own VC fund. So the government puts a VC fund, and then brings other companies like VC funds to invest in the government fund. So probably the government puts $20 million, a private investor put in that $20 million, right? And the government then gives that money to a private entity to run that venture capital fund. That private company does not necessarily look for returns of 17% IRR or this kind of returns. They sort of say, as a government, so long as we get back our principal amount, we're okay. So we'll lend money to ventures like yours, but we'll follow the laid down investment process. But this is also a separate company. But they don't become so tough in their lending conditions. I think if the government was to do that, they'll get much more spin-offs, because if that had been available to us 5 years, 8 years ago, most likely would have gone to this organization to raise capital. And probably would have paid back the first lot and gone again to raise a second set of capital. You get my point? So I would think that the government can also call, when this kind of model is successful, the government can also shout about it and then bring about the people who are investing into real estate to invest money into this organization. So, and you look, where is the money? I can give you an example. The company that has invested in us is Orios Capital. Orios Capital has a fund of $900 million, right? A global fund. Guess who has put money in that fund at a global level? It's the likes of the pension fund, the NSSF of Holland, the NSSF of Sweden has actually put money in this company. For us, our pension fund, NSSF, where do they put money? Real estate, you see? Can you see the difference? Where should be happening? The pension fund here should be the first person to say we've got extra cash, let's put it into this vehicle. Is that correct? But all is not possible.
As a follow-up, yes, this Singapore, Israel have done this extremely well. My partner, Paul Bregel, has done a fund in Singapore, 4-to-1 matching, right? The government gives $4 to every $1. For Savannah Fund, the first dollar is extremely hard to raise. Yes. Extremely, extremely hard. So yeah, I totally agree. But don't you think that if I understand, for pension funds here, regulation, right? They have to be, the pensions have to actually have regulations in place to let them invest in risky assets, right? And they have to understand that we don't want you to put all your money into VC, but maybe 2% max of your, trillions of shillings you can put into VC. Do you see that the government will ever change the regulations to allow or encourage pension funds to actually put money into venture capital?
I think the challenge we have money called Kazi kwa Vijana cash, right? What is that money? I don't know what it is. Right? I don't see what projects. That money should have come into that kind of venture. If you ask me. Now, so they still invested in Kazi kwa Vijana kind of initiatives, but that money, we don't really know where it went. So regulation is what you want it to be, right? If you're convinced that like a country you want to go this journey, then regulations are things that you can change, right? It's not a big issue, I guess, if you can be able to show. But I think we need, and I hope at some point we'll have a venture fund, government, where you have that kind of matching 4-to-1. I think it will be easier to raise capital. It will be cheaper, right? The same fund can provide you legal services, can provide you financial services, can provide you marketing services, even to brand your company. Because I can tell you in the first phase of my business, what are the services you could never afford? Hire good auditors, yeah? Hire good marketing guys to help you brand your company. Hire good legal guys. Hire good company secretaries, that stuff you can't afford it. Because you rather say, okay, forget about this, let me look for a cheap way to do it. Unfortunately, cheap is expensive, okay?
Hi, my name is Ansel. I'm from Seattle, Washington. Really appreciate you talking to us tonight. I appreciate your wisdom a lot. My question is a little similar to his, I think. You talked a lot about large established multinational corporations versus small startups, especially startups here, and the difficulty of like in Seattle, for instance, we have a lot of startups, and there's a certain cachet, oh yeah, I work for a startup, which, it doesn't seem like that's quite the case here. What will it take to get a certain coolness of cachet of working for startups within the investment community of Kenya, East Africa, and then within the international investment community? What can be done to?
I think it's a great question. I think we achieve that, we'll be very happy, because then I think it also gives us an easier way to attract talent. I'm not sure. I think it's about branding. It's how we brand, how we see the future. Okay. I think today, resources, today if you ask yourself as a startup, the only place you could make money today is probably technology. If you're telling me real estate, the big boys have already bought all the real estate you could possibly get into, right? So the only place you can trade, the only thing you can trade is knowledge. The only asset you have today is knowledge, right? Unless your parents are very wealthy, they can leave you some good wealth. Knowledge is the only thing you can trade with today. So what we need to try and do is sort of market, create a sort of, we need to consciously make an effort to celebrate entrepreneurs. We don't celebrate entrepreneurs enough. Now, I can see of late we're beginning to see this happening more and more in the media. And I know we talked to Linus is on Nation, and he kept saying that, I agree with you, Mike, and as Nation Media, we're trying our best to start showcasing entrepreneurs, right? So we do top 100 of 100 that company stuff, right? We demonstrate entrepreneurs. Other entrepreneurs who are a little bit mature. So we need to be able to show which is the next big thing. So it's about changing our culture, right? And you can only change culture by seeing results, okay? And part of it is, as a country, and I was talking to Mugo, Mugo Kibati of Vision 2030. I told him, Mugo, I was in Nigeria, I'm traveling around, I'm telling the guy, you guys have got Vision 2030 vision, right? I told him, why don't you guys have Vision 2030 companies? Because you have Vision 2030 projects, real estate projects, highways projects, whatever projects you guys do, healthcare projects. But why don't you have Vision 2030 companies? 20 years from today, I will be 50. I'll be 57, actually, 20 years from today. Most likely, I'm probably going to be running a conglomerate of a company that either will have changed, will be a big company then, is that correct? Will be a big company. But as a country, we have to start making an effort to build the companies of the future of this country. Is that correct? The next Keroche industry that will make them compete against EABL, which is a global company, right? The next Bitco, who today, we all grew up buying a Lianto and all this stuff, Kimbo, right? Kimbo is an East African breweries product, right? East African industry product. Today, Kimbo is owned by who? Bitco. Bitco, 20 years ago, had a revenue of $3 million. Today, Bitco has a revenue of $500 million. So we need to be able to look at those companies that we are going to work with in future and be able to support them to become Vision 2030 companies. What does that mean? You can even demonstrate those companies and call them gold, silver, bronze, and startups. Vision 2030 startups. So if your idea is a cool idea, as a Vision 2030 startup, I brand you as a Vision 2030 startup company. Because you'll move from being a Vision 2030 startup company to a Vision 2030 silver, gold, platinum company. Is that correct? So when the president is calling for a big function and he's going to China and he's going to Brazil, what they should be doing is carrying with you the Vision 2030 companies, because when they go see the opportunities. You get my point? China has done that. China has done that very, very well. China, the government goes out there, it brings companies along with it, right? So if you build Vision 2030 company, so 7C should be a flag, it should not be seen as a my company. It should be seen as a company that is building value for Kenyans out there. Trust me, if I'm successful in Nigeria, you'll be successful in Nigeria. That's what you need to understand. Because people are going to say, that Kenyan company that came here, oh, you're Kenyan also. Why don't I work with you? You understand? Because you have a reputation. You understand? You've seen that in the Chinese company, the German companies, and that's the only way I think we can be able to bring the issue of being cool. And the Vision 2030 companies, in terms of branding, in your vision statement, you finish your mission and vision statement. The next slide, you could explain why you're a Vision 2030 company. Imagine all entrepreneurs in Kenya carrying a business card. On the corner it says, I'm a Vision 2030 company. What does that do? You're getting entrepreneurs to be part and parcel of Vision 2030 in terms of economic growth. Is that correct? The next thing is looking at Vision 2030 people. People who are going to make a difference in our economy because the people are going to help us build a value system. Because now you have Vision 2030, but you don't have a value system. How do you build a national value system? And a national value system cannot be built by project. It has to be built by individuals. Is that correct? So people who are going to make a difference in transforming the country in terms of Vision 2030 as individuals, right? And finally, I also mentioned to him, and they took this idea that they're working on it, is Vision 2030 ideas. Ideas that can transform this country. M-Pesa is a Vision 2030 idea, right? The next idea that I could shoot down, it could be your idea, right? James' idea, the next guy, the next startup with a very cool idea that we could take as a Vision 2030 idea, and the whole country rallies behind this idea. You get my point? So it's linking the big plan, Vision 2030, and linking it to what we do on a day-to-day basis. That's what I think is a way to sort of drive this initiative.
I think that's really awesome. Can I follow up a little bit? What would it take to, like, what standard would you hold somebody that you would brand a Vision 2030 company? What standard would you hold them to?
You see, what you do, you create sort of a measuring matrix, right? You say Vision 2030 startup, 2030 bronze, and you sort of have measurements, right? A platinum company, you employ some amount of people, you've got audited statements, you're doing this, you've got a CSR policy, you've got an ISO process, right? I don't expect a Vision 2030 startup to really have all that stuff. I say you've got a great idea, okay, you set up the business, right? You've got probably 8, you've been doing this for the last 1 year, right? So you all aspire to be part of that roadmap. And then what happened? The Vision 2030 guy can then work and create an organization that does measurement and measurement, and development of these companies. And think about how powerful that will be when you go and do a statistical dashboard where all these companies are requested to put their numbers, how many people they employ. It means when we have facts, how many startups these people are employing, you'll be able to have statistics to say, Vision 2030 startup companies are employing 600 to 1,000 people. Vision 2030 companies in Platinum are employing 10,000. Today, that information, where is that information? We don't have that information. But in the developed market, that information is precise. You're able to say that developing these Vision 2030 companies, you are already creating 20,000, 100,000 jobs. Is that correct? The amount of venture capital funding going to this company is X amount. Because you're able to say, every time you get an investment, tell us how much. So you put in a dashboard. And it even makes it easier for VC funds to invest in these companies because when you're a Vision 2030 Platinum company, it's easy, and it will be easy for you to secure funding. Because when I come to the market, I'm not looking for the next hot idea around. I'm looking for companies that are already within the radar. Is that correct?
It's like having Series A, B, C, but you actually know exactly
where you are.
These Series A, B, C, the arbitrary line was made up in the 1970s. So if I could be like, I'm investing in a Kenya Vision 2030 bronze,
yes,
which ties with a certain amount of capital requirements.
Exactly. So
traction.
Exactly. So the VC fund, you say, I'm going to target bronze companies. As a VC fund, I'm going to target startup companies. As a PE fund, I'm going to target platinum companies, right? You have the statistics, you have audited statements, you have everything. That way, I think, can you imagine a situation where when I go to Nigeria, I go to Ghana, when I go to Angola, when I open my presentation, the third slide is I talk about Vision 2030. So it means I'll be selling the vision of this country in every place I go to. Is that correct? So, but anyway, they're doing something about it. So I'm sure they'll come up with a plan. But I am trying to drive this with them, and they're trying to put a committee together, and it would be good to have the guys of iHub, somebody sitting in that committee, so that we can make sure we start drafting this kind of roadmap together. It will be very exciting 20 years from today to say I was a Vision 2030 startup, and today I'm here. 20 years on, I'd like to see that, look, we started as a startup, today we are a flagship. We actually carry the flag of the country, and South Africa did this. South Africa has got something called Proudly South African, right? It has worked for them. It has really worked for South Africa. When you go to a mall, you say Proudly South Africa. You go to a supermarket, it's not Proudly South Africa. You go to a restaurant, it's Proudly South Africa. Even on the menu, it's Proudly South African, right? That's the only way they made the market grow. Okay, and I think change the perception, I guess.
All right. I think with that, we shall close the session. And I would like to thank you very much sharing such wise words and a lot of valuable knowledge. I've learned a lot myself about the investment world and just the mindset and mind share across Africa. We need to be able to kind of like open up and actually share the knowledge we have with people around us. And I believe like with thought leaders like Mike Macharia and a few others around us in Kenya, this is possible. His dedication to Kenyan startups and entrepreneurs is seen by the fact coming here and sharing his knowledge. Thank you very much, Mike.
Sure.
Can you give Mike a big hand?